The crash came without warning. One moment, Ethan's ship was flying above the strange green clouds of planet Una. The next moment, alarms screamed, flames burst from the engine, and the ship spun out of control. He tried everything manual. Controls, emergency boosters, but nothing worked. All he could do was brace himself. When the ship finally hit the surface, it slammed through trees and rocks. Metal tore apart, sparks flew, and the ground shook. Ethan blacked out. When he woke up, everything was quiet. Smoke rose from the wreckage. But he was alive. His arms hurt, and there was blood on his forehead. But he was breathing. He unstrapped himself and climbed out. Una was unlike any world he had seen. Tall blue trees reached into the sky. Strange birds with 4 wings flew above him. The air was warm but heavy, like something was watching him. Ethan grabbed his emergency pack and looked around. His communicator was broken, and the ship's distress beacon was silent. He was completely alone. He remembered the map from the mission briefing. There were only 2 safe zones nearby, but between him and them was a place marked in red. The Silent Wastes locals had called it cursed. Forbiddens, lost, with no choice, Ethan walked toward it. He needed shelter and time to plan. The forest changed as he moved. Trees became twisted. The ground was dry and cracked. There was no sound, no animals, no wind, only silence. Hours passed. Ethan found himself in a deep valley, surrounded by black stone. He saw strange carvings on the wall spirals, symbols and shapes that glowed faintly. They felt ancient, like they were waiting. He touched one of the carvings. It felt warm. He didn't know why, but a word came to his mind, a word he had. Read once in a book about lost alien languages, he whispered it, Valyun. Suddenly, the ground beneath him pulsed with light. A low hum filled the air. The silence broke. A figure stepped from behind one of the large stones. It was a girl alien, but young. Her skin was a soft silver, and her eyes glowed like stars. She wore robes made of crystal threads that shimmered as she moved. She stared at Ethan, not with fear, but with shock. Then she stepped closer, her voice trembling. You speak the dead language of our ancestors?" Ethan's heart pounded. He didn't know what to say. The girl looked around, then pulled him into the shadows. "You must not speak those words here," she whispered. "They are not safe," Ethan tried to explain. But she placed a hand on his chest. "You are human, yes? From the sky?" He nodded. The girl looked sad. "My name is Zira," she said. "I am the last of the Watchers." Ethan didn't know what that meant, but her eyes were serious. "Long ago, our people spoke with the stars," she continued. "We had a language that could wake the stone and command the earth. But one day, the voice was silenced. Our enemies feared it. They hunted us and buried our words." Ethan looked at the glowing carvings. "Why do I know this word?" he asked. Zira studied him for a moment. "Because the voice chooses who can speak it," she said, "and the voice has chosen you." Suddenly, loud sounds echoed through the valley. Ethan and Zira ducked behind the rocks. A search drone passed. Overhead, red lights scanning the ground. Someone was looking for him. Zira looked worried. "They are close. We must leave this place." Ethan followed her through hidden paths among the rocks. More carvings appeared, some broken, some glowing brighter as he passed. Zira noticed. "The temple is waking," she whispered. "It has waited a long time for someone like you." At the end of the path stood a large stone door. It had no handle, no lock, just a symbol in the center glowing softly. Zira turned to Ethan. "Say the word again." He hesitated, then spoke. "Valyun." The stone groaned and slowly opened. A wave of warm air rushed out, filled with light and whispers. Inside was a chamber old, grand, alive. Zira stepped in. "You are not just a visitor now," she said. "You are part of this world." Ethan didn't understand everything, but he felt something deep inside, the language, the symbols, the whispers. They were calling to him, and someone or something was listening. Ethan stepped into the chamber, his boots echoing on the stone floor. The air was warm. yet it carried a strange chill like the breath of something ancient. Faint lights pulsed along the walls, following his movement as if the temple itself was watching him. Zira walked ahead without fear, her silver robe brushing against the glowing floor. Ethan followed close, unsure of what he had just awakened. Each step felt like a choice he could not undo. The chamber opened into a wide hall, tall pillars reaching toward a ceiling lost in shadow. Strange devices lined the walls old. Silent, but full of purpose, they hummed softly when Ethan passed. Responding to something inside him, he didn't touch them, but he could feel their attention. Zira finally stopped in front of a stone table. It looked like an altar, carved, with circles and spiral markings. At its center lay a smooth disc, almost like a mirror, but black and still. She looked at Ethan with serious eyes. "You said the word without knowing its power," she said. "Now the voice has answered." Ethan frowned. "What is the voice?" he asked. Zira placed her hand over the black disc. "It is memory, it is command, it is truth," she whispered. "It belongs to no one, but it chooses who may carry it." Ethan stepped closer. The disc began to glow faintly, and a whisper filled the air, not loud, not clear, but full of weight. It wasn't sound, not really. It was something else, like a thought that didn't belong to him. Then he heard a word inside his mind, a word he had never seen or read, but somehow he understood it. It meant beginning, loss, hope, all at once. He backed away, confused. Zira looked at him with awe. "You hear it," she said. "Only the ones chosen by the ancients can hear the true voice." Ethan was about to ask more, but a loud crack shook the chamber. Dust fell from above, and the walls trembled. A voice came from outside, deep, cold, mechanical. "Human presence detected. Extraction in progress." Zira's eyes widened. "They found you," she said, grabbing his arm. "We must go." Ethan hesitated. "This place. I can't just leave it." "You must," Zira said firmly. "If they see this place, they will destroy it. They fear what they do not understand." As they rushed back through the passage, Ethan saw red lights flashing in the distance. Drones were flying low now, scanning the rocks and paths. Zira led him through a narrow crack in the stone, barely wide enough to pass. They emerged behind a curtain of hanging vines, high above the valley. From there, Ethan saw them, 3 human soldiers, dressed in black, speaking in Decums. They moved toward the temple entrance, weapons ready. Ethan's heart dropped. His people were here, but not to rescue him. Zira watched them with a calm face, but her eyes were sharp. "They want the voice," she said. "They don't care who they hurt." He didn't want to believe it, but he remembered the mission brief, the whispers among the crew, rumors of buried power on Una. Maybe he wasn't sent here by accident. Maybe he was just bait. One of the drones turned toward them. Zira pushed Ethan to the ground and covered them with her cloak. The fabric shimmered and bent light around them, like glass. The drone paused, scanned, then flew past. Ethan looked up at her. "How did you do that?" Zira didn't answer. Instead, she looked far into the forest. "We must go deeper," she said. "There is another place older than this. If the voice truly chose you, you must meet the elders." Ethan sat up slowly. "Will they help?" "They will test you," Zira said. "And if you fail, they will end you." The wind changed then, carrying distant echoes of the human soldiers below. Ethan looked back at the glowing entrance to the temple, now hidden again. He had woken something, and now everything was moving. He didn't know who to trust anymore, humans or aliens. But Zira had saved him, and somehow he felt like this planet was waiting for him. Long before he arrived, as they moved deeper into the jungle, the carvings began to change. The symbols no longer just glowed, they moved, rearranged themselves when he passed. Zira saw it too, but she said nothing. Something ancient had awakened, and it was following him. The jungle grew darker as they walked, not because the sun had set, but because something in the trees blocked the light. The leaves were thicker here, older, heavier, as if they had not been touched in 1,000 years. The air smelled of stone, moss, and memories. Ethan followed Zira without a word. She moved like she knew the path, even though no path was visible. Sometimes the ground shook under their feet, small rumbles, like a heartbeat coming from deep below. He wanted to ask where they were going, but the silence between them was too heavy. It wasn't an awkward silence. It was something sacred, like speaking too soon would break something. Then, Zira finally stopped. They stood before a tall wall of black roots, thick and twisted like frozen snakes. At the center was a single stone, shaped like a hand, pressed into the roots. Zira turned to Ethan and nodded. "Touch it," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "Why me?" "Because it won't open for me," she said. "Only for the one the voice has marked." He slowly reached out, his hand trembling slightly. The moment his fingers touched the stone, the roots began to move. They pulled back, one by one, revealing a narrow staircase that led underground. The stone hand pulsed with light, once, then went dark again. Zira stepped aside and motioned for him to go first. He hesitated, then descended. The stairs were cold and damp. With every step, a new light flickered on along the wall's symbols. Glowing in soft colors, they seemed to respond to his presence, like old friends waking from sleep. At the bottom of the stairs was a large chamber, round and silent. The floor was made of cracked crystal, and in the center stood something Ethan had not expected, a machine. It floated slightly above the ground, shaped like a giant orb, covered in strange panels and broken metal rings. It looked like no human tech he had ever seen. Yet somehow it felt familiar. He stepped closer. Symbols floated around the machine, letters made of light, spinning slowly. He couldn't read them, but he could feel what they meant, not with words, but with emotion, sorrow. "Waiting power," Zira spoke quietly behind him. "This is the heart of the ancients," she said. "It holds the last memory of my people before the silence came." Ethan looked around. "There are no elders here," he said. Zira shook her head. "The elders are not people, not anymore. They are inside this machine, waiting." Ethan stared at the orb. "They're alive in there?" "In a way," she said. "Not like you or me. They exist as thought, memory, and purpose." Suddenly, a beam of light shot from the machine and hit Ethan's chest. He stumbled back, but didn't fall. The light didn't burn, it sank into him. Images filled his mind, cities in the sky, towers made of sound, people speaking words that shaped the world. He saw war, fire, silence. He saw his own face reflected in water that wasn't water. The machine spoke, but not with a voice. Inside his head, he heard it, clear and calm. "You are not one of us, but you carry the breath of our tongue," he answered without knowing how. "I don't understand this power," the machine responded. "Then you must learn, for the false ones come, and they seek to erase what still breathes." Ethan saw images of humans, says people tearing machines apart, stealing what they didn't understand. He saw Zira's home burning. He saw a future without the voice. The light vanished, and the room went still. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. Zira rushed to him, holding his shoulder. "What did they show you?" she asked. "They showed me everything," Ethan whispered. "And they warned me. Your people are not the only ones in danger." Zira helped him stand. "You saw the future," she said. "Then the trial has begun." Ethan looked confused. "Trial?" Zira nodded. "To speak the voice is to carry its weight. You must face the trial of tongues or lose it forever." Ethan didn't know what that meant yet, but the fear in her eyes was real. From deep inside the machine, a soft sound echoed like metal breathing. Symbols appeared again on the walls, now turning red. Zira stepped back. "It has begun," she said. "You must survive it, or the voice will choose another." And before Ethan could speak, the chamber started to shift. The floor glowed beneath him, and the air turned thick like liquid. Then, the world around him disappeared. He was no longer in a cave. He was standing on a stone bridge above a dark, endless sky. Far away, a voice began to speak. Not loud, but powerful. Speak the first word. And prove you are not a thief. Ethan stood alone on the floating stone bridge. There was no wind, no sky, only darkness below and a strange glow above. The voice that had called him echoed again. This time deeper. Speak the first word. It repeated, or fall into silence forever. He didn't know what this place was, or if it was real, but he felt something pulling at his mind, memories that were not his. Images of voices rising, of worlds bending to sound. The trial had started, and it was not a test of strength. It was a test of soul. He stepped forward carefully. Each step on the bridge lit a symbol below his feet. The moment he opened his mouth to speak, pain stabbed behind his eyes. 1,000 broken voices screamed inside his head. He stumbled, fell to one knee. Then he remembered the word the machine had shown him in the vision. A word full of sorrow and hope. He whispered it, unsure. Celerai. The voices stopped. The sky above cracked open with light, and the bridge grew longer. The path forward had accepted the word, but as he stood again, something moved in the shadows. Figures began to appear on the bridge, tall, thin shapes made of smoke and memory. They had no faces, but their mouths never stopped moving. They whispered, hissed, questioned. You are not one of us. You steal our tongue. You do not deserve it. Ethan tried to ignore them. He kept walking, saying the next word that rose in his mind. Volton, he said with more strength. One of the shadows screamed and vanished. The others paused, their whispers softer now. The trial was not just a test of speech, it was a battle of belief. Each word he spoke had to come from his heart. Not just memory, it had to be true back in the real world. Zero waited beside the machine. Ethan's body stood still, eyes closed, bathed in the soft red glow. But something else was happening. The machine began to pulse faster, and strange waves of sound rose from the walls. Zira stepped back as a sudden surge of energy cracked the floor. Voices from the outer jungle shouted, human voices. A team of soldiers pushed through the vines, weapons raised. The leader was a man with a silver badge and a cold voice. Secure the subject, he ordered, pointing at Ethan. Zira moved between them and the boy, her voice sharp. He is not to be touched. The leader narrowed his eyes. You're protecting the human over your own kind? He is not just human, Zira said. He is chosen. But the soldiers didn't care. They moved forward, ready to fire. Back on the bridge, Ethan heard their voices, even from inside the trial. He could feel them, people closing in. Danger. Rising, the pressure on his chest grew heavier. The next step on the bridge didn't light up. The voice returned, colder this time. You doubt, and doubt brings silence. Ethan closed his eyes, reached deep inside, and then, without thinking, he said a word he had never learned. It came from his soul, not his memory. Kairoth. Massive wave of golden light exploded across the bridge. The shadow figures screamed and scattered into dust. The final part of the path opened, and at the end stood a stone figure. Tall and silent, its eyes opened, glowing softly. You have spoken the lost word, it said. You are now bound to the voice. And with those words, the trial ended. Ethan gasped and opened his eyes. He was back in the chamber, the machine humming loudly, its light shifting to gold. Around him, the human soldiers had frozen. Their weapons refused to work, metal bending like soft clay. Zira stared at him, amazed. You passed, she whispered, but how did you know that last word? I didn't, Ethan said quietly. It came to me, like a memory I never lived. The machine shifted, forming a small floating shard of crystal. It hovered toward Ethan, then sank into his chest. A soft glow remained there, just over his heart. Suddenly, one of the soldiers broke free from the machine's power. He screamed, pulled out a hidden blade, and charged. Ethan didn't move. He simply said, Drellin. The blade stopped midair, frozen, then dropped to the floor. The soldier collapsed, unconscious. The others ran, fear in their eyes. Even the commander stepped back. Shaken, Ethan looked at Zira. I think the voice obeys me now. Zira nodded slowly. But others will come. Stronger, more prepared, she said. You've proven yourself to the voice. But now you must prove yourself to the galaxy. And outside, far above the jungle skies, new ships were already approaching, drawn by the light of the ancient power reborn. The real war had not even started yet. The jungle was no longer quiet. The sky above shook with sound. Engines roared, and heavy ships began to descend. They were not rescue ships, not explorers, not friends. They were harvesters, hunters of forgotten power. Ethan and Zira stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as metal giants dropped from the sky. From each ship, squads of armored humans stepped out, eyes hidden behind dark helmets, weapons glowing with cold light. These were not soldiers of peace. They had come for the voice. Ethan could feel the crystal shard inside his chest vibrating softly. It didn't hurt, but it warned him. The voice was no longer just a gift, it was a target, and they would not stop until it was ripped from him. Zira touched his shoulder. We cannot run, she said. They will follow us, burn the forest, destroy what they don't understand. Ethan looked toward the temple, now half buried again. Its entrance sealed. The power inside it had changed him, but it had also made him responsible. He turned to her and asked the question he had been afraid to ask. Is there anyone else like you? Anyone who still believes in the voice? Zira gave a small nod. There are some far in the east, hidden among the roots of the mountain. They are old, quiet, and dangerous. They guard the trial of tongues, and they are not kind to outsiders. I'm not just an outsider now, Ethan said. I carry the voice. Zira looked at him for a long moment. Then you must face them and speak before the elders. If they accept you, they will teach you the final command. Final command? She turned to the trees, already walking. The one word that can bind the voice to the world again. Behind them, the first of the invaders entered the forest. Scanning, searching, Ethan and Zira ran, silent and fast, deeper into the jungle. They traveled for hours. Maybe more time felt strange in that place. The air grew cooler, and the light dimmed as they moved closer to the mountains. The trees became larger, their roots like walls, their trunks hollow like towers. At last they reached a canyon split into 5 narrow paths. Each one was dark, deep, and whispering. Zira stopped. This is where I leave you, she said. Ethan turned sharply. What do you mean? The elders must judge you alone, she said. They will not allow me to speak for you. If they sense fear, they will reject you. If they hear lies, they will erase you. Ethan swallowed hard. Which path leads to them? Zira shook her head. Only one path leads to the true chamber. The others lead to silence. Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding. He didn't know how he would choose. Then he felt a tug inside his chest, a soft pull, like gravity, but deeper. He turned left, toward the third path, and walked. The darkness swallowed him, but the crystal in his chest lit the way as he walked. Strange sounds filled the air, voices not loud, but familiar. They spoke in the dead language, words he had heard in dreams and visions, but now he understood them. They were stories, they were warnings, they were tests. Finally, the path opened into a circular stone hall. In the center sat 5 tall figures, cloaked in shadow, unmoving. Their faces were hidden, but their presence was heavy like a mountain. Ethan stepped forward, and the doors behind him closed without sound. The one in the middle raised a hand. You carry the voice, it said. But that alone does not make you worthy, another elder spoke. To hold the language is to shape fate. To speak wrongly is to bring ruin, a third voice whispered. Speak now, not with sound, but with truth. Ethan felt his throat tighten. He didn't know what they wanted to hear, so he spoke the only truth he knew. I did not come here to steal, he said. I did not come to lead. The voice found me, not the other way around. Silence followed. Then a deep rumble shook the floor. One of the elders raised their hand again. If this is true, Then speak the final word. Ethan hesitated. I don't know it. You must, they said together, or the voice will die with you. He closed his eyes, searching. Memories swirled Zira's eyes. The trial bridge, the floating machine, the burning forest. Then, deep within, he felt it. Like a seed breaking open, a word so old, so full of meaning, that it made his breath catch. He opened his mouth and spoke. Maruin. A blinding light burst from the floor. The elders bowed their heads, and the hall trembled. The walls shifted, revealing carvings, long hidden stories of humans and ancients together. The central elder stood, stepped forward, and placed a single glowing mark on Ethan's forehead. You are the last speaker, he said, and the first of the new. Far above, in the dark sky, the invading ships received a strange signal, an ancient voice they could not decode, and in their confusion, the planet itself began to answer. The sky cracked, not from thunder, but from memory. The moment Ethan spoke the final word, something deep in the planet woke up. The invading ships hovering above the jungle began to shake. In their control rooms, human officers stared at their screens as ancient symbols replaced their maps. Their weapons stopped responding. Their engines went quiet. Something had taken control. And it wasn't human inside the elder chamber. Ethan stood very still. The glow on his forehead faded slowly, but the mark it left behind felt permanent. The elders stood around him in a circle now, no longer hidden in shadows. Their faces were made of soft stone and light, carved by time itself. They had no eyes, yet he could feel their gaze. You have spoken what was sealed, one of them said. You carry not just the voice, but the choice. Ethan didn't understand. Choice for what? He asked. To return power to the world, said another, or to silence it forever. Suddenly, the ground above them rumbled hard. Dust fell from the ceiling, and distant explosions echoed through the mountains. The invaders were growing. Desperate, Zira appeared at the entrance to the chamber, breathing hard. They've brought machines, she said. Diggers, burners, war engines. Ethan turned to the elders. You said I carry the choice. What do I do now? The oldest elder reached toward the center of the hall. A panel opened, and a glowing sphere floated upward. Humming softly, this is the Echo Heart, the elder said. It can carry the voice to every corner of the galaxy. Ethan stepped closer. It pulsed in rhythm with his chest. But if it falls into the wrong hands? Then all will end, said the elder simply. Language shapes thought, and thought shapes reality. Whoever commands the voice can rewrite truth. Outside, the jungle burned. Flames climbed the trees, and metal beasts stomped through the roots. The harvesters were no longer searching. They were erasing. Ethan grabbed the Echo Heart, and a shock ran through his arm. He saw flashes. Zira's home turned to ash, the temple collapsing, his own people turning against him. He also saw hope, humans and aliens building something together, using the voice to heal, not harm. He had to make a decision, hide the Echo Heart again, or release its message to the stars. Zira stepped beside him, her voice quiet. If you share it, your people may fear you. They may try to destroy you. I know, Ethan said, but if I don't share it, we lose everything. The ground shook again. Louder now, the elders began to chant, their bodies glowing brighter. Speak the command, they said together. Let the truth echo, Ethan raised the Echo Heart and spoke not in words, but in meaning. He didn't shout, didn't scream. He simply said, live. The Echo Heart burst with light blue, white, and gold. Waves of energy shot up through the ground, into the sky, across the atmosphere. The burning jungle stopped burning. The machines outside froze where they stood, vines wrapping around, their legs pulling them down. Above, every invading ship lit up from within, their systems flooded by the voice. Not to kill, not to attack, but to teach. The old language appeared on every screen, and every pilot heard a whisper in their mind. It said one thing, listen. Back on the ground, the elders began to fade. Their forms turned to light and scattered into the walls. Only one voice remained. You have passed the trial of power. It said, now you must pass the trial of mercy. Ethan didn't understand what that meant, but he knew this wasn't over. Zira looked at him with quiet fear. They won't stop, Ethan, she said. The ones behind the ships. They want the voice for war. Ethan held the echo heart tighter. Then I'll give them something they've never faced, he said. A human who speaks the truth they buried. Far above the planet, in a command ship waiting in orbit, a man watched the light erupting from the jungle. His face was cold, his eyes unreadable. He turned to his officers. Prepare the containment unit, he said. We're going down there ourselves. The real enemy had arrived, and he didn't want to steal the voice. He wanted to own it. The stars above Una dimmed as the command ship entered the planet's skies. It moved like a shadow, smooth and silent, without fire or warning. It did not come to ask or to learn. It came to claim. Ethan stood on a hilltop overlooking the valley, the echo heart glowing in his hands. The jungle was quiet again, but it was not peace. It was the stillness before the next storm. Beside him, Zira watched the skies, her face calm, but her fingers trembling. She could feel the change in the air, the pressure, the pull. Something old and cruel was drawing near. Far away, the massive ship lowered itself just above the treetops. A long ramp slid open, and black-armored figures marched out. They moved with perfect rhythm, no wasted motion, no fear. And behind them came a man without a name, only a title, the architect. He wore no helmet, no armor, just a thin coat made of woven light and a thin metal crown. His voice was soft but sharp, and it reached every corner of the jungle without sound. Return the echo heart, he said. It belongs to the future. Ethan stepped forward. It belongs to no one, he said. It was lost because of greed, and it woke because of truth. The architect smiled faintly. You speak like a hero, but you are just a boy holding a bomb. Ethan didn't answer. The echo heart in his hands pulsed brighter. He could hear it now, not just words, but songs, stories, cries from thousands of years. It was not a weapon. It was memory. The architect raised his hand, and from behind him, a massive being stepped forward. It was not alive, not dead, some machine flesh. Hybrid, shaped like a giant. Its chest was covered in old carvings that had been carved wrong. Twisted versions of the voice, reprogrammed to obey. Zira gasped. That was once a speaker, she whispered. They turned it into a shell. The architect pointed at Ethan. If you do not give it willingly, this will take it. Ethan didn't step back. He looked into the creature's eyes, hollow, endless, and said a single word. Return. The creature froze, its chest symbols glowing dimly. It tilted its head as if remembering. Then the architect snapped his fingers, and the glow died. Ethan realized then that the architect had learned some of the voice, enough to control, enough to corrupt, but not enough to understand, and the voice would not obey him, not if Ethan made the final choice. Zira turned to Ethan. If you let the heart go, it will die, she said. But if you use it now, you will change everything. Ethan looked at the sky, the ships, the jungle, the machines. He closed his eyes and spoke, not loudly, but from deep within. A final command, not of war, not of power, but of awakening. Let all remember. He whispered. Let all speak. The echo heart shattered in his hands. Light pouring from it like water, it flowed into the ground, into the trees, into the stars. The jungle lit up like fireflies at night. The machines froze. The soldiers collapsed without pain. The false symbols peeled off, revealing the true language underneath. Even the giant machine staggered back, then knelt, its hands opened, and it touched the earth like it was praying. The architect screamed, not in anger, but in fear. He stepped backward, trying to give new commands, but the voice no longer listened to him. He was loud, but he was empty. The voice had chosen, and it had spoken. Zira looked around, eyes wide. The trees were whispering again, but not in fear. They were singing. Ethan stood quietly, no longer glowing, no longer marked. The power was gone, but not lost. It had returned to where it belonged, to the world, to the people, to every voice ready to speak the truth again. Above them, the command ship powered down, and its lights faded. The jungle swallowed the machines like roots taking back the earth. Zira turned to Ethan. "You gave it away," she said. "You could have ruled." "I didn't want to rule," Ethan said, smiling. "I just wanted someone to listen." And now the whole galaxy was listening.